So, as we pointed out earlier, oil prices have continued to fall, heading towards a 4-year low. It follows OPEC Plus's surprise increase in production, raising output by 411,000 barrels a day. Let's bring in here Vivek, Dhar, Director of Mining and Energy Commodities Research for the Commonwealth Bank. He joins me now from Singapore. Vivek, always good to have you in the program. Just explain to me one thing. So, what they're going to do is increase production at a time when global economic growth is slowing. That seems counterintuitive. So why are they doing this?
So look, the history of what OPEC Plus has done, and particularly if we look at the last few years, has been all about stability and being predictable. So the fact that in the last 2 months, we have seen them act in this way, it really does raise eyebrows that why are they doing this? And in terms of what they've communicated to the market, they have said that it's to punish those members that are producing more than their quota. So that targets Kazakhstan, that targets Iraq. But the cynical view of all this is this some kind of way for OPEC Plus to claim more market share without actually directly signaling to the market that they're doing that? And I think that narrative is something that the market has to watch very, very closely, because that is something that could see oil prices tick even further lower. So it's certainly very much a question on what is being said, but what is the real motive? And I think there's a wide gap forming in terms of those narratives in the market.
Okay, but this plays right into Donald Trump's narrative as well, because he's called on OPEC to produce more oil to bring down prices. But by doing that, it also means it brings down inflation across the Western world, including the United States, which is facing an inflation challenge with its new tariffs.
Look, that's true that you do feed that whole idea what Trump wanted in terms of $50 a barrel for oil. But also Trump wanted drill, baby, drill. And he wanted US oil production to really start soaring. Now, some of the US oil companies have reported, and in particular, I think something that has attracted my attention was Diamondback Energy. And in a letter to shareholders, they openly said that this could be the tipping point for US oil production. They are actually expecting US oil production to start going south. And it really puts in perspective that where we are right now in terms of US oil and the growth it has sustained over the last 10, 15 years because of the shale revolution, it may be coming to an end because of low prices. So, you can't have both. You can't have low oil prices and then a US oil industry that is booming. And I think we're really at the crossroads of that. But yes, there is a trade-off. Yes, you get lower inflation, but do you get a US oil shale sector that is booming? I'd say you are compromising that.
I was going to say, of course, you're compromising it. So in other words, OPEC, by going against what would be normal economic sort of mores, and that is by producing more and not less as demand starts to evaporate, effectively could be trying to wipe out that US shale oil sector, which has obviously been booming as a part of Trump's strategy to be self-reliant on energy.
Look, I think that is very much a risk that is playing out here. Like if we look at the Dallas Fed survey for the first quarter, they actually said that for US oil production to grow, across 81 oil exploration and production companies, they said you needed a price of about $65 a barrel. Now we're well below that level, but we are seeing almost this covert market share grab by OPEC Plus, because last time they did this explicitly, and this was all the way back in 2014, we actually saw oil prices plunge, and it fell not just a small amount. It fell from the beginning of 2014 at about $110 a barrel for Brent. It fell to a low of under $30 a barrel by Jan 2016. So you are very much seeing OPEC Plus play with fire. I think how they really flag and signal their policy is going to be critical, but they definitely know that what they did in 2014 to 2016 is not something they want to repeat. No. But yes, US shale is going to be the victim.
It's going to be fascinating to watch it. I'll tell you what, whenever you're talking about OPEC Plus and oil markets, you've always got to go for the biggest conspiracy theory you possibly can. Vivek Dhar, Director of Mining and Energy Commodities Research at the Commonwealth Bank, thanks for your time today.
Thank you.